Welcome back, YouTubers. If you are new to our channel, I am Cheryl with Adventures of C&C, and I am from a tiny remote island in the Dutch Caribbean called Saba. And today I'd like to share with you that sometimes it's difficult when you're traveling to smaller islands and what to prepare for when you are traveling to a remote island in the Caribbean. So follow us, the Adventures of C&C. Don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because in the following weeks, we will be bringing you more videos from Saba on the new marina that's coming and real estate on Saba and all new to 2024 Saba. So follow us.
Taking my chances along with my dreams.
And the adventure begins. We are in line at Spirit, and the line is horrific. It's right after the holidays. And there's like a million people in line, but that's
it moves fast.
It moves fast, yeah. And we are heading to St. Martin and on to Saba for 1 month. Woohoo! Just landed in St. Martin with Spirit. Our flight was late. We waited on a bus. It's like 4 o'clock St. Martin time, and we are heading into the terminal to get our luggage and go through immigration, because we need to go to Phillipsburg to get the Makana. So we hope to make it on time. I moved to Florida. Actually, this year will be 20 years. I can't believe it actually already. But my son, my oldest son, moved back, and him and his family live in Saba. So it's a reason for us to spend more time in Saba. And we have discovered that in the winter is the best time, because we have a problem finding RV parks anyway. We don't want to travel north with our RV in the cold, so we travel international in the winter, and I come back to Saba. When I first got into insurance, my hubby recruited me into insurance, and when I first got in, he was explaining me how the comp worked and so on. I was like, that's fine. I'm not money motivated anyway. And he said, so how many times would you like to visit Saba? Because I had a new grandbaby just born, and she is 10 now. And I said, I'd kind of like to go like 4 times a year maybe. So he said, well, this is what you need to do to get there 4 times a year. And that's what motivated me to build my insurance business. And now I work remotely, and I discovered that I can work from anywhere. So I don't come 4 times a year, I only come once a year, but we come for several weeks or even a few months. And this year we're here for almost 2 months again. But sometimes it's very challenging getting to Saba. In fact, almost every year we meet some challenges. So I wanted to tell you today, if you're flying from America to St. Martin, that's pretty easy. That's like one shot and you are there. But when we come to Saba, we have to take a smaller plane from St. Martin or a ferry. And this year, when we booked our travel to come in January, we booked it like 3 months out. There were no flights with Winair. Winair is the smaller plane that flies into Saba. So we had no choice but to book with the ferry. And we have to, if you know St. Martin, we have to go from the airport to the harbor. It's across the island. It's only a few miles, but the traffic in St. Martin can be brutal. So our flight was delayed in Florida. We traveled with Spirit. Our flight was delayed by an hour. And when we got into St. Martin, and I had like totally forgot about this, because of the time change in America, The Caribbean time stays the same, but we were an hour ahead when we got into St. Martin. So when we landed on the airport, I was already like stressing, how are we going to make this ferry? Because when we landed in the airport in St. Martin, there were a lot of jets in Saturday afternoon, and we had to wait for a bus to come take us off the plane. Then we had to sit in that bus lined up. I was surprised, and not surprised in a good way, to see that the airport wasn't completed, because after all these years after the hurricane, and I heard it was finished, but only the departure hall was completed. The arrival hall is still not finished. So it was pretty chaotic at the airport. We were still outside the building into like makeshift buildings. There were like 4 or 5 jets in, long lines. We are waiting. We went through immigration, waited on luggage now. It was really, really a challenge, and thank goodness I was in contact with my daughter-in-law Casey and Saber, and she was going back and forth with the mechanic and letting them know that we were on our way, because check-in was already closed and they said we would not make the ferry. So our taxi speeded to get here in time, and we barely made the mechanic in time. That was the fastest ride from the airport to the port. But here we are, we made it. So what I wanted to tell you today, when you are doing what we are doing, an island hopping and going to a second island, always prepare for the possibility that you might have to overnight in the bigger island, because we've had to do that many times. You have to plan ahead and know that you may have to, and not be too disappointed or upset about it. Just plan ahead to do that, because it happens very often. And we almost had to do it. We didn't. We made a ferry just in time. We got a taxi who, oh my goodness, like 3 times I thought we were going to like maybe get in an accident, because he was speeding to get us there in time. But he did. He got us there in time. And another tip I wanted to tell you is, when you go to smaller islands to the Caribbean, make sure and have cash, because not everybody takes credit cards, and have change, because it makes it much easier for taxis and ferries and tipping. And we were lucky because the day we came, the ocean was flat. I always opt for the plane because I get seasick. So I never opt for the ferry first. But since we had no choice this time, because all the flights were full for like 4 days. So even if we had stayed in St. Martin, we would have to stay for like 4 days. And I like to stay in St. Martin's on the way back to America, just in case we have flight issues. So I didn't want to stay on the way there. But a good reason for coming on the ferry is that the ferry is also half the price of, or maybe even less than what the plane is. We paid $150 for both of us to come over onto the McCanna ferry. So that was a good deal. The weather was beautiful, because into the winter time sometimes it can be pretty rough, but we were very lucky. The water was really flat and calm, because probably 2 days after we arrived in Sable, the weather changed. It was rough and windy, and I know I would not have been able to make that ferry ride, or I would have been brutally seasick. So it worked out good for us. But these are things to know when you are island hopping and coming into smaller islands into the Caribbean. You have to prepare for the unexpected, prepare to stay over, and always have some cash, because you will probably need it. So I hope that these tips are good for you if you're traveling to the Caribbean. You can drop us in the comments, if you like this video, if it's helpful to you, how we can help you, if we can answer questions. And if you are traveling to the Caribbean, we would be happy to help you, especially St. Martin, Saba, So drop us a comment and let us know. And that's all for now, folks. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And we'll see you next week in our Seba series 2024.